If you're trying to come here in England, whether it's for work, to join your family or to study, it's definitely a big commitment. Moving to another country is usually a life-changing decision for many. Is England the right country for you? Moving in England has definitely been life-changing for me. I have learned so much about life, love, and myself. I appreciate you being here with me, and in today's video, I'm going to share my journey, my experiences, and all the things that I have learned after living in England for 5 years. I've provided timestamps, by the way, so feel free to check it out if you like. I was born and raised in the Philippines. My mum's been here in the UK for over a decade when I left home. At that time, it wasn't possible for her to just petition me, as it's not that easy. There were lots of visa requirements, and if I was to complete my nursing degree here in the UK, it would cost us so much money. Apart from that, you can't petition your child who is over 18, as they are treated as an adult here in the UK. Once you are 18, you are deemed as capable of looking after yourself. So what I did is I finished my nursing degree in the Philippines and passed my board exam. The usual process for us nurses back home is to render volunteer nursing services to a hospital so you can get a certificate that you can use as a proof of working experience. This is what most of my previous classmates and friends did, as finding a job as a nurse in the hospital and actually getting paid is just difficult. I was determined from the very beginning that I will find a hospital that would actually pay me, as I did not want to end up being a volunteer. We all need money to survive, right? Apart from being determined, I'm also ambitious, so I took my chances and applied to St. Luke's Medical Center Global City. Take note, I was just a regular nurse from the province with no previous experience. But I did it anyway, and I got lucky and I was hired. It was very intimidating at the beginning, as all of a sudden I was looking after and working with high-profile patients and colleagues. At that time, one of the requirements of coming here in the UK as a nurse is that you must have a year's worth of hospital experience. I started taking my IELTS 6 months on, as I knew I only needed a year. That was difficult, by the way, as I was working 60 to 80 hours per week, but if you desperately want something, you've got to work hard for it. On the same day as my 1-year anniversary working in St. Luke's, I somehow managed to book myself for an interview for the trust where I'm working now. I actually found the post at 2 o'clock in the morning, and miraculously I was given a slot for the interview. If you'd like to know more about my nursing journey, let me know in the comment section, as I can make a separate video of that if you are interested. So to cut this story short, I arrived in the UK under the Tier 2 visa, which is basically a working visa, as I came here to work as a nurse. So the salary obviously depends on your type of work. If you're coming here in the UK for work, you would know how much your salary is, as that should be included in your contract. As a nurse, your salary depends on a few factors. The first one is the time of arrival, as every year there is a slight increase in the nurse's salary. So for example, when I arrived here 5 years ago, the base pay was around £22,000 per year. Fast forward to 2021, the starting pay of a newly qualified nurse is £24,907. This is the base rate, and this excludes any enhancements for night and weekend shifts. Another factor that may impact your salary is location. There is an additional high cost allowance for employees working in London. So far, I have seen this to be the case even for other roles and not just nurses. But then the cost of living is higher if you decide to work there. The third factor is yearly appraisals. Every year you tend to get a slight pay increase, so you will find that colleagues who have worked longer in that institution than you would have a slightly higher hourly rate. There is no 13-month pay here, by the way, unlike in the Philippines. If you are coming here as a student, you are allowed to work for a maximum of 20 hours per week, and the current minimum wage are as follows. The most common salary deductions are tax, national insurance, and pension. Of course, these are all subjective based on your personal circumstance, but for me personally, these are the applicable ones. Tax-free allowance here in the UK changes every tax year. The current tax year we're making this video is the 6th of April 2020 to the 5th of April 2021. This standard tax allowance that is applicable to me means that anything I earn after £12,500 will be taxed. How much tax they will take depends on my overall income. These are the tax rates and bands under the UK's official government website. National insurance is another fee that gets deducted straight into my salary. This is a compulsory payment to provide state assistance for people who are sick, unemployed, or retired. And my last deduction is the pension. I have two employers and I find that my deductions are both dependent on my salary. Yes, I'm afraid mandatory expenses do not end there. Whether you are renting or you own your own home here in the UK, you will need to pay council tax. When I first arrived here, I had an in-house accommodation. I was living in a flat that was owned by the trust that I'm working for. My rent was subsidized and it was all packaged for a set price. It means that I paid a set price for the council tax, water, heating, and electric. You may find this similar if you rent out just a room or is applicable to some flats, so it's always best to check. For my current situation, we do own a house, so we have to pay council tax 10 out of 12 months in a year. Every February and March you won't have to pay it. The amount depends on the value of your property and if you are living alone or living with somebody else. Another three expenses that isn't really mandatory but are essential is a life and a home insurance and an internet or a cellular phone bill. You would definitely need to take out a home insurance if you are a homeowner, and getting a life insurance is a very sensible thing to do, especially if you have kids. If you would like to learn how to drive here in the UK, the first step is to get a learner's driver's license. Without this, you are not legally allowed to learn. This costs £34 if you pay online or £43 if you apply by post. You would need driving lessons for you to learn, and in our local area it costs anywhere from £25 to £30 per hour. Learning automatic is more expensive as most of the cars here are manual. Also, there are different categories of driver's license here, which states what you can and cannot drive. Some driving instructors say that a typical learner needs about 20 to 25 lessons before they would be ready to take their driving test. So as what you have noticed, the cost adds up pretty quickly. Also, you would have to pay for the theory test, which is £23, and the driving test, which is £62. If you fail any of these tests, you'd have to pay again to rebook. After passing your test, you'd obviously need to buy a car, and the prices would vary. The expense does not stop there. You would need an insurance, which tends to be more expensive for first-time drivers, and you would also need to pay for a road tax annually. The price depends on the car that you're driving. Your car would also have to be checked annually in the form of MOT to make sure that it is roadworthy. This may be comparable if you're coming from a first world country, but for me personally, coming from the Philippines, it was definitely surprising to realize how expensive it is to drive here. Just like anywhere in the world, there are places where the cost of housing is higher compared to the other areas. It is always best to do your research and compare. In our area, renting a 3-bedroom house would cost you about £1,000 to £1,200, and this excludes council tax, internet, electric, and gas. Food cost is not too bad. I would say you can find some reasonably priced produce, especially if it's in season. There are also some budget grocery shops like Lidl and Aldi. So if you plan your meals well, it won't be that expensive. Based on our household expense, on an average, we spend about £25 per week per person. Based on my personal experience, English people are amazing. They are beautiful inside and out. They do have their moments when they like to moan about the weather and other little things, but most English people I have met makes a joke about British being known to moan. They are very charming and very sweet and polite. I'd like to point out though that I live in the country, so it may be different if you live in a busy city. They also like to call sweet names, like my colleagues have called me Love, for example, and of course let's not forget about that gorgeous British accent.
I met my husband after 2 months of moving here. I did not have any intentions of finding somebody, but he came along and of course I was swept away by his blue eyes and British accent. Now of course I can only speak based on my own experience, but I'm afraid to say that some, if not most British men are more responsible compared to Filipino men. I think it's because life here is so different. You're very independent and you don't get help from your family, and that results in forming a deeper connection with your other half. You would really build a life together, and to me that's been really amazing. For me, there is a good life-work balance here in the UK. The standard holiday entitlement is 5.6 weeks of paid leave. This means that a full-time 9 to 5 Monday to Friday employee will have a holiday for 5.6 weeks per year. If you work less hours, your entitlement will be less, and they do have a calculation for that. This is why a nurse like myself can go back home to the Philippines and stay there for 4 weeks at a time while still having other holidays during the year. I heard that they have less holiday entitlement in the US, so if you're in the US and is watching, I'd love to know, and I'd love to hear from you from the comment section. I also want to talk to you about maternity pay. You can take up to a year of maternity leave here in the UK. You will get paid during the first 9 months and you won't receive any payment for the remaining 3 months. The maternity pay that you get decreases over time too, so bear that in mind. Once your baby turns 3, and if one parent is British or has access to public funds, which will be stated in your visa, you will get a nursery funding. The hours you will get will depend on you and your spouse's working hours. The maximum funding you could get is 30 hours per week. There are also some instances when you can apply for a childcare funding for your child who is 2 years old, but then again, one parent should be British or has access to public funds. Once your child is old enough to go to a proper school, that is free of charge regardless of your visa, so long as you and your child have the right to live here in the UK, of course. So primary, secondary and college is all free of charge. University isn't though. There are also private schools here, but they are crazy expensive and most students goes to a state school. England is such a lovely country. There are lots of beautiful sceneries, amazing British garden, and the architecture is just full of history. The only thing here though is the weather. It is mostly cold and you can get 4 seasons in one day. It could literally be sunny and in half an hour's time it can look like there is a typhoon coming. We also don't get a lot of hot days here in the UK. We probably get about a couple of days of heat wave and that's it. Personally, I love the sun and the heat, so that's definitely one of the many things that I miss about the Philippines. Also, the beaches here are freezing cold compared to the warm waters of the Philippine Sea. Unlike in the Philippines, we tend to have relatives nearby to help us. Here we are completely on our own. You will find that your relatives are also busy with their own lives. Thankfully, there are so many things that are convenient here. Preparing food takes so much time, but luckily there are lots of instant food that is available. You can also buy frozen food, and all you need to do is to just stick it in the microwave or oven. If you are used to home-cooked food, though, just like myself, as I was spoiled by my nan with her delicious food, it's easy to buy pre-cut vegetables or pre-made sauces to make cooking quicker. I also tend to meal prep and freeze some spares for later. Laundry is also very easy, especially if you have a dryer. Just put it all in the washer dryer and it's going to come out clean and dry. And all you need to do is to just fold your clothes. Shopping is also very convenient. You can have anything you want delivered. We always have our food shopping delivered at home as it saves us time. You can also order takeaway food. Everything is done online and you don't even have to hand them cash, as you'd have to enter your bank details before placing your order. Here in our area, it's also very easy to book a cab. I just need to ring them and give them the time and the address where I would like to be picked, and that's all done. There are definitely lots of little things that makes living here easier. If you fell ill, you may be eligible for a sick pay. This is depending on your employer. I have been off sick once and my employer paid my basic rate. Because of our dear NHS, hospitalization is included for immigrants like myself. I say included and not free, as you will need to pay a healthcare surcharge fee. But once you are on a settlement or indefinite leave to remain, then you won't need to pay this and it will technically be free. Everything from the doctor's appointments to hospitalization to midwife visits, it's all free of charge. The only thing that you need to pay for is your prescription as an outpatient. It costs a fortune to be hospitalized in the Philippines, so we are very lucky to have the NHS. Visa fees are very expensive here in the UK. Luckily, my employer paid for my first visa fee. There are different categories, and after X number of years, you will need to renew it before you can apply for a settlement and eventually become a British citizen. Also, if you decide to bring a dependent, whether it be your adult spouse or partner or your child, they would have to pay the same amount as yours. These visa fees includes a healthcare surcharge fee, which are worth thousands and thousands of pounds. And you would have to renew this for a few times and also pay for a fee to become a British citizen. I found the love of my life here in the UK, and because my mum is already here, I am reunited with her when I arrived here, so it has definitely worked out for me. Because of the fact that I'm a nurse from the Philippines, working and living here has given me so much more opportunities in life. Yes, the salary is much higher compared to what I was earning back home, but don't forget how expensive it is to live here. The council tax that we are currently paying for our house is as much as my previous monthly salary. These compulsory bills are something that you can't escape here in the UK, and owning a house and a car is definitely expensive but is essential. You'd also find that when things goes wrong, like if your car is broken or if you have a leak in your house, etc., it is so expensive to have it looked at. So in terms of finances, it can be tough if you're not careful, as the higher salary also equates to a higher cost of living. I hope this video has been helpful, and if you're trying to come here in the UK, I wish you all the best. It's a lovely country, and if you would like to know more about my nursing journey, let me know in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more weekly lifestyle, tech and recipe videos. This has been Pia, and I'd love to see you on my next video. Paalam!